Hello. Today we're going to be talking about offers that businesses usually um, send to their clients. Everybody knows that advertising is essential if you want to do any kind of business, and marketing obviously plays a large part in that, a large part, I should say. And people try to come up with all kinds of different ways to give people deals because people like deals. So offers of all kinds are created and disseminated and consumed and then redeemed. And in some cases it works well, in other cases it doesn't work so well. So it's always a kind of a game that people, both businesses and people, are playing with each other, trying to figure out what exactly is the right advertising medium to use, approach to use, how often to advertise, where, when, all the different details. But part of this deal offering always involves some sort of a offer that being either sent um, directly to the person's home as a some sort of a postcard or a letter, or advertising in newspapers or magazines. And of course, every business that advertises wants to track it, so people are asked to cut things with their, cut little coupons out and then bring them to the store, and then the store takes them and collects them and counts them and things like that to try to figure out um, how well it's working for them in terms of tracking it. So it's a very awkward approach, and we'll just go into the presentation here and um, get with the details of how it can be done better. So tracking forms here, I'm going to do a Q&A at the end if you have any questions, so I'll be happy to answer those. And you can go to the URL at the top of the screen there to write whatever questions you'd like. I'm not going to be manning these questions until the end. So feel free to write a question. Feel free to vote up or down on existing questions, and then we'll tackle them when we get to the very end. So let's talk about tracking forms. Okay, so the problem, I already kind of described it, but we'll kind of quickly go through it again, is that the tracking of offers and coupons without using paper and with ease of use in mind is kind of a difficult, it has been a difficult situation in the past because mostly it's done with paper, mostly it's done using these coupons. And for users, meaning customers, it's not very easy because you have to get the coupon and then you have to bring it in and give it to the person. And, that's one approach. The other one is you have to cut it out. So you have to have a hassle of cutting it out and making sure it's with you when you go to whatever place. And if you're trying to do it with multiple places or different places, it's a major, major hassle because you got, literally wallet or purse full of these coupons trying to figure out which one is which. Anyway, paper is definitely a problematic approach when using these kind of things. But for the most part, that's how currently everybody pretty much does it. Is you got a zillion different coupons, and you can see people standing at the checkout register with 25 coupons in their hands. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. So I'm gonna show you a better way to do it, in my opinion, a much more proactive way to do it, much less expensive way to do it too for the business, and still accomplish the same result basically, and also provide better customer service because it's much easier to do it using this other approach. So we all know the problem. How do we solve this thing? The solution is, number one, we eliminate paper. There's no reason to use paper in today's digital world, and so we go full digital. We'll be sending out digital coupons instead of paper coupons, even though paper could still be used with this approach as well. And we're going to be using Google Forms, and we're going to be using the QR codes, which are codes that Google invented many years back, and a lot of people are using them. And also we're going to be using mobile devices. So the approach itself is fairly simple. Most people know how to do it. Is you grow an email list of potential and current customers, and then that email list gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you send your offers through the email, which is a lot cheaper than advertising in newspaper or magazine, with some sort of nice looking HTML type email. And then the QR codes are just little codes that get in there, which we'll use for the purposes of tracking. And you can also still use the traditional advertising and marketing mediums such as newspapers and magazines. You could use it. I'm not recommending you use it, but you could use it. It's still going to cost whatever it costs to do the mailing and things like that. So the digital approach is much less much more cost effective. I wanted to say much less expensive. But if you want to use the paper, you can use the same approach with paper as well. And essentially, you're just printing a QR code. You already have a lot of coupons out there that do show some sort of a barcode or QR code. So the stores that take these coupons can scan it. And in fact, most of them do it nowadays because it's much easier than sitting and counting these little pieces of paper. But I've seen in a lot of restaurants, for example, people still get the coupons and there's no barcode or anything on it. They just slap it somewhere and or use paper clip to keep it together, and then they count it. And I mean, it's just terrible, basically, how it works. But if you wanted to do it, you could potentially still do it using this thing as well. And we will be using Google Forms um, to scan the offers, these QR codes, and have the results for tabulation and viewing be in Google Sheet is where we're going to store it. So that's the approach basically is you have the email list you're sending this offer to, and then on that offer there's going to be a QR code, and then that QR code will be something that people will be able to use to track the activity with using that particular offer, that particular coupon, if you will. Okay? And I'll show you a demo. It'll be a lot more descriptive and much easier. It's pretty simple. It's nothing complicated. Okay? So let's move on here and step through the steps of the process itself. So the process itself is you set up a Google form, one of the new Google forms. Would I recommend the old ones would work fine too. But set up the Google form, and that form will be used to track a particular offer. Okay. Now on that form, you don't need to set up any fields at all if you don't want to. This thing works just fine without any fields. Okay. But if you wanted to set up some fields on it that are optional, you can. And when I do the demo, I'll explain more why you might want to. But the basic use of this is do not put any fields. You create a form, you give it a proper name. It's important to properly name it so you don't get lost in all these forms. And, if you have a, for example, 20% off offer, call it 20% off offer. If you have buy one, get one free, call it buy one, get one free. In other words, call the form for each offer whatever it's supposed to represent, and then there's no question about what it's for. Okay? And this is going to be, the name is going to be for your purposes. It's not going to be for the customers. They have no idea what these things are or what's going to happen with these forms, basically. Next thing you do is you get the URL for the form by going to the preview mode and then creating getting the URL and getting the QR code for that particular URL. And that's something you can easily set up using a Chrome extension, which I'll show you when we do the demo. And you can then generate whatever the offer graphics are, whether you're going to create little coupons or some sort of an ad in the newspaper or mailing piece, whatever you're going to do, or email, whatever you're going to do, just create your stuff. But the important part is you need to make sure that the QR code itself that we generated in step 3 here is fully visible and usable, meaning scannable, in your ad. Whatever the ad is, the QR code needs to be in there. Okay? And then the rest of the graphics can be anything you want. So there's no limitation there. It's just so the QR code can be scanned. It can be there. And the only thing to consider here, if you're going to generate this thing that'll be disseminated to people on their cell phones, which is my recommendation, then you don't want to make the graphics too huge because then it'll be hard to kind of put it on a little screen. So you kind of keep it down to a size that will look good on a screen. And you want to make sure QR code is big enough where the image itself is big enough where it's easily scannable. So when people pull it up on their cell phone, if the image is big and QR code is small, what will happen is if people shrink it with their fingers so the whole image fits on the screen, the QR code may become so tiny that you wouldn't be able to scan it. It's important that QR code can be scanned directly from the phone, from somebody's phone. So you want to make sure that thing is definitely big enough for that. Okay? And Step number 6 here is what's going to happen is when the customers come back, they're going to show you that particular email on their phone, which is going to have QR code there nicely prominent, and your people will then scan that QR code with their mobile device, and which will, of course, bring up the form that we talked about earlier, and then the form gets submitted. And that's what I mean by not needing to have fields on the form. The only thing we're trying to do is simply submit the form. So what's going to happen is the form will come up when they scan the code, when your employee scans the code, and then they just click submit to indicate they're done, and that's it. That's the whole process. Takes 2 seconds to do. And then, of course, they fulfill the offer itself. So if they got a coupon, and by the way, when you generate these things, it's not, make sure that they're not only named correctly, but also that they have whatever graphics on them indicating what the offer is. So the people on your end, whether it's restaurant employee or any other employee who is doing the scanning, knows exactly what that particular code represents. I mean, when they scan it, it'll come up and say, that it's a 20% offer, so they know they need to give people 20% off the total bill. So it's important that these forms are set up where it's very easy, not only for the customers to understand what the offer is, but at the same time for the staff that's going to be then doing the scanning in the end to track it. They know exactly what the offer is. So it needs to be named right, and it also needs to have the whatever verbiage, text, or graphics on it, on the piece itself, in addition to the QR code that indicates what it is. So then the person just fulfills the offer, and then the process is repeated basically. Well, the steps 6 through 7 are repeated for as many customers as come in for any kind of offers. And then, of course, you repeat the entire process for every single offer you want to generate. And of course, once you create this process from step 1 through step 8, then for a particular offer, then it's done, and then people just start using it, and you just start tracking it, and basically at that point what's going on. You don't need to be doing it over and over and over, but you can use the same offer in terms of these codes and everything as much as you want going forward. Okay, so again, we set up the form to track the offer, okay, and then we get the URL or QR code incorporated into the graphics that send to the customer in some form, whether it's a coupon or email or whatever you're using. And then we go ahead when the customer comes back and shows us that email that they got with that QR code, then one of your people scans that QR code with their mobile device, and then they fulfill the offer, and basically that's the end of the process. Okay, let's see here. Let's move on to the next step, and I think the next step is the demo. So let's go into the demo. Again, if you have any questions, please put them over at the this address at the top here. Just go right there and put your question there, and I'll answer them at the end. So let's just jump right into the demo. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to generate the QR code based on a form. So the first thing we're going to do, we're just going to set up a very simple blank form. So you go to forms.google.com or go to Google Drive and then select new form, however you want to do it, and you select a blank form. We're not picking any specific templates or anything. And then the form name, let's say we want to do 20% off. So let's change to say 20% off. Okay. And of course, when you do that, up here, the actual name, you'll see it's the same thing. So that's the offer. And you don't need to, you can just get rid of this question here. Let's just delete it, click on delete. There's no, there's nothing else that says it but 20% off. Okay, and that's, again, that's going to be just for your employees. It's not going to be for the customer or anything like that. This is the form that you will be used by your employees for tracking purposes. The customer is going to get the QR code for this form, but they're not going to see anything else, essentially. Okay, and what we're going to do here is once the form is saved, then I'm going to go ahead and click on the preview. and you will see that the form just says 20% off and submit. That's all we need, nothing more. And then what I'm going to do is I have this extension called goo.gl URL shortener, which I use to create short URLs. And so you can use that, and if you click on it, it'll generate the short URL for this particular form and shows it to you here. And as you can see, you have several options here. You can either copy the URL, which is something that if you're sending people an email, you can send the QR code in there. But in case they're just reading email on their desktop, if you want them to be able to get to this form, or show the form, I should say, you can also give them the URL itself. But usually we're going to be using QR code, so we'll just continue with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this QR code, and I'm going to right-click and say Copy Image. Okay? So that's all I need to get into this 20% form. I just get the QR code right there. Okay? So that's, you can see it takes seconds to set this up. So now my 20% off is set. And one thing I would also recommend is when you're setting up, we're going to be setting up these forms for every single offer. And you can see it's very simple and quick. The only problem is that once you start setting them up and you got 1, you got 2, you got 3, it's really difficult to just have all these QR codes. You got to jump back to the form to try to get it again. It's just too much stuff. So I'd recommend you set up a single document, Google Doc. And in that document, you document the name of the form. You document what it's for, if it's not evident from the name. And then you actually copy the QR code in there. Okay, and that makes it very easy in the future to say, I'm going to be sending people 20% off. Oh, okay, I will need this particular QR code for it. So you don't need to keep hunting all the time if you have a bunch of these forms. And if you do a lot of offers, you will have a bunch of these forms. It's just the way the beast works. So I would recommend you set up a document. In fact, you know what, before we continue here, what I'm going to do is quickly show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to jump to Google Drive. And I'm going to go to let's see, I'm going to go to one of the clients I have, and I will show you that I have, I actually set up a folder called Forms, and I have all these different forms that I'm using. And there is also a document called All Forms. And if I double click on it to open it, you will see that essentially I have pretty simple doc, and it has the name, it has the description, it has the short URL, and it has all the QR codes. So all I have to do is just grab them directly from here, and I can paste them anywhere I want. Make all the different offers in one place. So that's what I wanted to show you, that it makes it really convenient and simple that way. All right, let's jump back to where we were. So we got our QR code copied in the clipboard. And now I can actually go to email, for example, and I can create a new email. Create a new email here. And I can put whatever I want in there. And if I just hit Control-V to paste, notice it puts the QR code nicely in there for me. Okay? And so this QR code right here is what's going to be, this is email offer for 20% off, for example. And you can put whatever you want in this email. You can say, dear valued customer, blah, 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 whatever you want to say, basically. It doesn't really matter. The bottom line is you can obviously add additional graphics to it, all kinds of things you want to do. But like I said, keep it so it's not too huge. And at the same time, so this QR code is prominently visible and easily used up. Okay? And so what's going to happen is you get the idea. And then you send it out to everybody. Make sure when you send it out, you do not use the to field for the recipients. You use BCC. A lot of people don't do that, which is a problem and mistake not to do it. What you want to do is you want to put your own email address in the to field, and then in BCC, you dump your entire email list. And your email list can easily come from like Google Sheets, for example. If you have your customers' let's say you're building a list of your customers, mailing list. You usually use the same Google Forms to get their initial information, and so everything's stored in the sheet. And if you have a Google Sheet with email addresses, all you have to do is just simply copy that column of all the email addresses, just by just dragging the mouse button from top to bottom, or however you want to select. You can click on the first item and then shift click on the last one. Bottom line is you select the entire column, hit Control C to copy, and then you put it here in BCC and hit Control V, and all of them will be there. So it's very simple to grab a bunch of email addresses and send email to all these people, but make sure please use BCC. Do not use the to field to do that. Okay, so email goes out. Let's just say that email goes out, and what's happening is now the employee, let's say this is a restaurant offer. So the restaurant sends the offer out, this email comes out, and the customer now has it on their phone. So I'm going to send it to me. Well, I'm not going to send it to me because I can't be scanning with my phone. My phone stuff with my phone. So we'll just scan it from the screen. The customers will come in and they will actually bring it on their phone because it'll be email on their mobile device. And then the person who's working at the restaurant, one of the people who comes in, they will, they'll tell them that they have the special offer. So they'll do the scanning on their phone. So I'm going to go ahead and jump out of the screen share here. Hello. And I'm going to show you exactly what I'm doing here by just simply showing you. Let me see if I can adjust the camera here. Okay, well, you get the idea somewhat. Okay, we'll just try to wing it here. So I'm going to go into my scanning app on my mobile phone, and it goes there. And I'm going to go ahead and just simply go over to the code and scan the code. And once I scan it, as you can see here, I get the link, which I just tap it. And as you can imagine, it goes back to my 20% off. I mean, that's where the link takes me. Okay. And so me currently being the employee at the restaurant, in other words, the 20% off email went out to the customer. Customer came in with their phone showing that email, and then the employee takes and scans that particular URL code from there, and it takes them to this point here. And so an employee simply clicks on submit. They don't need to do anything else. They just scan, and then they go ahead and click submit, and it says your response has been recorded. You're done. That's as simple as that. And so the end result is that at this point, if I went back to my, let me just go back to screen share and show you. If I went back to my form, I got my one response here. So number one, when you jump into the form as a business, you immediately see how many people responded so far altogether. Okay. And then if you click on responses and you go to the spreadsheet, first I'll ask you to create it, we'll just create it. You will notice that it opens up Google Sheet, just a standard Google Sheet, and that's how all forms work. And it sticks the timestamp of when this occurred with nothing else because we didn't put any fields on it. So now what's happening is if we had 20 rows filled in with this, then we know we have 20 responses. And we know that this is 20% off. So in other words, by having each of these offers be in a separate form and separate sheet as the end result, we wind up having separate tracking so we know exactly which campaign or which offer is generating what kind of response. Because right here, I see nothing but people who use the 20% off coupons. Another form is going to be something for nothing but buy one, get one free. Another one is going to be for something else. So each one only tracks its own things, and you see from the beginning of time what they were. In addition to that, because we do have the timestamp in there, we can also say, okay, how many of these offers have been redeemed in the month of May? Easy enough. You can just easily track it with your eyes. You can look and see. And by the way, in case you didn't know, when you have entries in Google Sheets, if you grab and scroll down, then what's happening is, well, it only has one right now. On the right side, on the bottom here, if I had more entries, it would show me. It would show me the total if I had actual numbers, but also it shows me the count. So on the bottom right here, you would actually see account. And of course, you can see for yourself. I mean, you just subtract 1 for the headings, and you can see there's, 6 entries. That means you have uh, 5 people. So it's very easy based on dates to quickly and easily either write a formula to calculate how many entries came in and use that, or you can just visually quickly see it. I mean, it's very, very quick and very simple. But you see exactly when these offers were redeemed, date and time, without anybody doing anything special. You can see how many you have, and all of them are nicely stored in Google Sheets, available to you anywhere. You can use it on the mobile device, you can use it on the desktop, you can use it anywhere. So that makes it very simple to use. If you use this approach completely digitally, meaning you just send your offers via email, and then these people come in and they show you the codes and you scan them, there is no cost involved. In other words, you didn't spend a single penny on any kind of printing or any kind of graphic cards or any kind of ink or paper or anything. You haven't spent a cent, and yet the offers go out to the customers, and then they come back and they use these offers. So it makes it very, very cost-effective way to both create and disseminate offers, and at the same time to track them after the fact. Okay, so that's basically how this thing works. If you have any questions, let me see. Okay, we have Zara and we have Mark Barras, and they both simply indicated they're there, but they don't have any questions. So that means that I think we're done here. So I'm gonna jump back to my form here, and if you have any questions after watching this, feel free to send them to me. You can find me on Google Plus, either at my business account, which is the PCS Works, or my personal, which is shown in the second line there. I'll be happy to answer the questions. Also, if you put any questions still at this URL, I'll answer them. I'm not sure how long Google keeps this, so it's best to just contact me through Google Plus. Once this presentation is over, this thing might be going away. Thank you, and until next time.